Covenant Keepers, this is Brother Clifton, and a few weeks ago I had mentioned in a video that we were going to look at the armor of God, and that we were going to post a video every week looking on this subject, and have not had a chance to do that. We've been working on some other projects, but I wanted to do this today, and us take a look at this armor of God, because myself anyways, what I'm going to present to you over the next few weeks, I had never heard before until I taught it at the Potter's House probably about a year ago. We taught on the armor of God, and it kind of gave us a little bit more insight onto what this actually is, because for you and I, many of us, if not all of us, have been taught and may have understood this armor to be one thing, or pictured as one thing, and it actually is. When you look at it scripturally, it does not play out to be what we were told, or the imagery that we were given as to what it is. But we're going to look at one scripture tonight, and we'll be using the King James Bible tonight anyway. And I want us to go to Ephesians chapter 6 and verse 11. It says, put on the whole armor of, the King James says, God, you and I will probably say Yahweh, so we're going to say Yahweh. We're going to put on the whole armor of Yahweh, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. So as we look at this one verse here, there's something that we have to ask, and that is, whose armor is it? And when we go back and look, it says the armor of Yahweh. It's his armor. It's not my armor. It's not your armor. But it is the armor of Yahweh. It is his. It belongs to him. Just like the Sabbath and the feast days, they belong to him. You know, we all are familiar with Leviticus 23, where it says, these are my appointed times. These are my feast. And the Apostle Paul is informing us that this armor that he is talking about belongs to Yahweh. So as we go through this armor, and what the scriptures play it out to be, how the scriptures describe it, keep that in mind. And we'll probably mention that several times through these video teachings, that this is the armor of Yahweh. A few years ago, I had one pastor kind of give this illustration in a message that he was giving. He said, when we put this armor on, when the devil sees us, or when the enemy sees us, they see, excuse me, they see Yahweh, they see God. They don't see us, and because it's his armor. Until we speak doubt, or we speak, or we speak unbelief, then the adversary has to stop and say, wait a minute, that can't be Yahweh. He would never say or speak doubt or unbelief or speak fear. So then they're aware that that's not him. And as we go through this series that we're going to do here, we're going to see that not everybody wears the armor of God. And the example that we're going to see is, Paul says, put on the whole armor. Now, I will say to you that unless you are a commandment keeper, that you're not going to wear or be able to put on the whole armor of Yahweh. And we're going to see that as we go through this. Now, I keep saying, we're going to see this. One of the things about this armor, and the picture that we've been given as to what it is one of the reasons that I believe is that there's so much infighting in many congregations. Now, I'm not speaking of covenant apostolic congregations. I will say from what I have seen at the congregations that I've been at, and basically they're inside a covenant apostolic congregation. I don't believe there's infighting or people fighting against each other. I've not seen that or the cliques that you might see in other congregations. Covenant apostolic, Sabbath keeping, commandment keeping congregations are special. You're going to feel probably more love at one of our congregations than you would at a non-commandment keeping congregations. Uh, do we have issues? Probably. But I don't see them as exposed in our congregations as it's more evident in other congregations. But I do want to look at a few words in this verse 11. And the first I want to look at is put on, the phrase put on. Now, this is a Strong's word 1746. And it is a Strong's word enduo. And it means to sink into, like you're putting on clothing and that type of thing. It means to clothe oneself. So this is what we are to do. We are to sink into, we are to clothe ourselves in the armor of Yahweh. Now, the great thing about this armor of Yahweh is that it fits me, and it's going to fit you. But another example that we have is David and Saul. Saul wanted David to wear his armor. It was Saul's armor. But David didn't wear it. He goes, I've not tried this. It didn't fit David. So if he went out to battle, it would be a hindrance to him. But this armor of Yahweh fits. It fits you and me. It doesn't matter. As long as we're doing the things that please him, it's going to fit us. And we're not going to have an issue of things getting in the way as we go to battle. And as we continue here again, you're going to see that. But this word put on means to clothe yourself with. So we can say it this way. Paul is saying, clothe yourself with all of the armor of Yahweh. The next phrase I want to look at is whole armor. And this is Strong's number 3833. And it means pretty much exactly what it says. It's the full armor, the complete armor. But this comes from, it's a compound word, and comes from two different words. And the first word is Strong's 3956, which pretty much means everything. Oh, the whole of it. Put it all on. And then the next number is Strong's 3696. And it means any tool or implement for preparing for anything. And the example that it gives is preparing for warfare or weapons. So let's go back now and look. And Paul is saying, put on the whole armor of God. Put it on and prepare for war, because every piece of this armor, as a believer, as a covenant keeper, you're going to need every piece of this armor of Yahweh. The next thing we'll look at says, so that you may be able to stand against the wiles. Now this wiles is Strong's number 3180. And it's methodia. This is where we get our word method from. And this word means cunning, arts, deceit, craft, trickery. So here again, and this may seem simple to many of you, but I'm building a foundation for our next teaching of this. But these are some things that we need to understand and get it in our mind, what this wile means. The trickery, or the deceit, or the craftiness of the devil. Now this word devil is Strong's word 1228, and is diabolos. Diabolos. And it means false accuser or slanderer. And when we look at this, you and I very well know that our adversary, the scriptures play this out, he is a false accuser. He is a slanderer of the brethren. But also, and we know that Paul is referring to, because the next verse he says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood." So we know this armor, this is one thing that you need to remember as we go in deeper in this, and we all know this, but it is a spiritual armor. We are not physically putting on an armor. We're not physically putting on an armor of Yahweh, but it's all spiritual. But even when we are faced with those who want to confront us and they want to stand against us, this armor is going to help you fight. While it's a physical person, we know it's a spiritual battle that we're going up against. And this armor is going to help us in that area. But metaphorically applied to a man who, by opposing the cause of God, may be said to act the part of the devil or to side with him. And here again, we can see this in scriptures played out even in the life of Yeshua, even in the life of Paul, where they ran into these things. And while it was physical, they could see with their eyes, they were very much aware that it was a spiritual battle. So I'm just going to look at this verse today and talk about what we've talked about. And here again, just laying a foundation for the direction that we're going, because the next couple of videos we're going to go deeper into what this armor actually is and how the scriptures show us what this armor actually is. Even in what is called the Old Testament, the Hebrew scriptures, the Tanakh, uh, we read of the armor of Yahweh. And the next video we're going to look at this armor, whose it is. And we know that it's Yahweh's, but we're going to use scripture showing what this armor and where Paul was coming from and where Paul was drawing this illustration from, and how it is not what you and I have been given the imagery for it to be. As I look on the wall in front of my desk, there is a plaque or a picture, and it shows the different pieces of this armor. And as I look, I'm very much aware that this is an incorrect representation of what this armor is. So until next time, we'll look, like I said, a little bit deeper into this armor and what it is and what Paul, or where he was drawing this information from. Until then, Shabbat Shalom.